Hey guys, this is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about rekindling your inner child. And this is such an important topic, and pretty much everyone on Earth, it would be really helpful if this was cultivated, because we really need to bring back our childlike natures, our creativity, our innocence, for so many different reasons, for the kindness and betterment of humanity, and also for our personal expansion and wholeness, so we can truly reclaim all of our sensitivities to go forward and evolve and live our missions. So it's very important. So how did this start? Like, what happened? What was the catalyst that made these amazing children that are alive and vibrant and just free into these crabby adults that don't remember what this feeling is like? Where did it go wrong? We have to start there. We have to start at the root. So in the root, where it is it really starts at birth, but that's for another video. But so in early childhood, most people have experienced some kind of trauma, whether that's verbal, whether that's physical abuse, some kind of accident, just being in the field of intense, just argument is intense. And just honestly, life here on Earth, which many of you know about, just being in these fields is just pretty crazy. So if there's some kind of trauma that you've had in childhood, that's the first thing that can create this disconnection. And when we're talking about this disconnection, it's a very real thing. It's not just like, oh, I lost my playfulness, or something. It's literally a soul aspect of yourself that gets pushed out of your aura. It gets like suppressed and pushed out of your like soul auric field, so that it's a part of yourself that's no longer inhabiting you. It is pushed out, and it's pushed out because you push it out yourself mostly, or if the field, is just like so intense, it gets pushed out because it's a coping mechanism. So there's two ways that usually kids do it. They either numb out, and that's where it like checks out, or they just like forget and numb and suppress that like they had this joy or whatever it looks like. Or the other is that the kid is so sensitive that the kid takes everything on. And so you can kind of look at yourself, how did that work? Did you take everything on, or did you push that part of yourself out so that it was protected? The second way that this trauma can happen, that this childlike soul aspect of ourself can get pushed out, is through cultural programming. I mean, from the second we're kids, it's like, be this way, do it this way, don't do that, you're a bad girl, you're a good girl, like, bad boy, don't do that, stop running, da 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 da. And it's just like, stop, don't, be constrained, chill out, be a zombie ant, and it's like, the kid finally, again, either checks out or just like takes on all the burden and just becomes this perfect little robot that the parents want, or just becomes this like rebellious thing that like has to go check out later in life. So one of the two things happen. It could be trauma, it could be cultural programming. So we're going to be looking deeply into both of these. So back to the trauma. So when this happens, this part of yourself gets pushed out, the soul aspect. And when this happens, that means that whatever characteristics, whatever personality, whatever special qualities that soul part of you had that just couldn't hack it, being whole, and had to fracture, is no longer available in your present day-to-day life. And so when you think back and you're like, I used to be so spontaneous, I used to be so playful, I used to be so creative, what are the things, so first and foremost, what are the things that you used to be that you might not feel you have anymore, for instance? And what are those things that it would be really helpful if you had? Because the key is, the whole reason that we're talking about this right now, is that you need that part of yourself back. That little kid needs to help you on your mission to be whole. If you're missing, say, if you were an extra sensitive kid, right? That sensitivity, that innocence might have gotten pushed out. You need that sensitivity so that you can understand the world and, say, navigate, expand your extrasensory abilities. So you might need that soul aspect. So first, begin by identifying those parts of yourself that you're like, where did they go? And what were they? What has changed between the you when you were a kid and the you now? Because the you when you were a kid is the person, he or she remembers who they are, remembers where we come from, remembers your mission, remembers why you came here. So that part is your guide. That part is your like messenger. And so it's like, we need to go find them. We need to go, they're playing hide and go seek, and we need to go find them so that we can remember what the heck we're supposed to be doing here and have our fullness, our whole team, our whole inner team to go forward. After identifying those certain personality traits that may have gotten disconnected, and honestly, like, pause this, take a few minutes, write down some of these things, and then continue on, because if you watch this all the way through, it'll just fall away into the YouTube abyss and you'll probably never come back to it. So actually stop and do this, or set it aside for another time to actually go through some of these processes, so that you can work through it right now, so that we can do it right now, because it's that accessible actually, once we become conscious of it, which is what we're doing right now. So the first step is look at those traits of you when you were a kid and you now. What's missing? What do we need to add back in? Because that will create those qualities that we're looking for in that soul piece that has been pushed out or pushed down. Now the second thing is, sometimes it actually is really obvious, like, was there a childhood trauma? Did something happen? That was probably the moment when it happened. So a lot of people have like a significant marker in which they can go back to and go, oh, I get it, that's when that happened. So see if you can pinpoint that and actually go back to that time space of when that would have happened. Some people, it's just an ongoing field, like an ongoing trauma field. And then in that case, it's still the same thing. You're just still needing to bring back in that energy. So those are the first two things to figure out: the qualities and maybe time spaces when these traumas or these pushing out happened. Because the second we can identify them and realize that they did, then we can resolve them. The interesting thing is that if you do have a trauma, that you're like frozen to that time space until that thing is healed. So you could probably identify this more easily in other people. So you might have had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they might get into this like situation where they're really like trauma, and you're like, dude, why are you being like a little baby right now? Like, why are you being a little boy about this? Like, why are you, whether it's being triggered or throwing kind of like a fit, or the other energy where you're like this wounded child. That is literally the wounded child. That is the part of you that's missing that piece that got pushed out. So it's like that piece that got pushed out is the wholeness, and what is left without that piece is the wound. And so what we're doing right now is the wound is the whole, and now we're gonna bring back that piece. And so how do you find the whole? Because you can start to see the traits of what the wounding is, which can show you when it happened and how it happened. And then that wound usually lives in the body. So there was some like exit portal in which that soul piece went out. And so where is it? Where is it in your body? And you can just take a few minutes and actually just breathe after you've identified these things, and tune into where it was, where it happened, where this hole in your actual auric field got torn, and tune into that part of your body and bring consciousness to it. And then the key is to then call back that soul aspect, is to call back that little child from this adult self. And this is technically soul retrieval. This is what you do in shamanic work and all different kinds of spiritual modalities, and this is what I do with clients. And the reason I'm even doing this video is because it comes up so much, like pretty much everyone needs it. And so I'm like, hey, if I can deliver some tools in which you can do it for yourself, I'd be happy to do that, because we all need this. So you're calling this soul part back, and you're literally imagining that little kid self, and you're saying, hey, like, I see you, and I'm an adult now, and I can be your friend, and like, it's safe now to come back. Like, whatever happened when we were a kid isn't here anymore. Like, we can do this together. And calling them back and inviting them back into your body, back into your field, and actually feeling that merging happen is what soul retrieval is. So this is just basic. This is just an overview of what you can do. But just with these components, you can start to get an idea, because I just want to bring this really to conscious attention, and so that you can start to work with this idea and see if it's something that you need to do. And a lot of people, I want to say, because a lot of people in the spiritual community can get into this thing where like then they live from the wounded inner child, and that gets kind of weird. That's like the opposite, where you're just like, my inner child feels so abandoned right now, and it's like once the inner child's back and it's truly like back into wholeness, it's not gonna like, I don't know, throw tantrums anymore. It's back, it's full, it's fine, it's good. So just know that it doesn't have to go like be an ongoing process that is this like subtle passive aggressive way of not being able to say how you're feeling, and so you use the inner child as an excuse. It's kind of a weird thing that happens. But one thing that interesting that does happen in the beginning, when it's fresh, so it's like a fresh wound, right, and it needs to heal, so like the aura tear is healing, it's coming back in, it's feeling safe, so that it's like, can I really stay, can I really stay? So it's a cultivation, over a few days or over a few weeks of being like, yeah, you're safe here, you're safe here. Interesting thing, when I first did this with one of my healers, I think this was like 8 years ago or something, my inner child was wounded through my solar plexus, and we healed it, and a lot of it was the power of saying what I needed to say. It was something around that, and being bold enough to stand up for myself, something around that. And the next day I went with a friend, and she just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. And at that time, it was hard for me to just be like, okay, this is like a really one-way conversation. Like, can we balance this out? Like, what's going on here? And she just like talked for an hour straight. And then I finally was like, I gotta go. And I left, and she was like, did I do something like wrong? Or like, is there something you need to say? And my adult self was like, like it was still fresh. It was still new, expressing myself. And my adult self hesitated, didn't quite know what to say. And literally I hugged her, and my solar plexus sent out a shockwave. So like my inner child that was being healed sent out like literally an electric current, like shocking her, because it was still like wounded. And she like jumped back and was like, oh, you just shocked me. And it was really kind of crazy, and that's like an extreme example, but the point is that this child is like then defensive for a little bit, and needing to be taken care of and cultivated, and wants to be truly heard, and wants to come back into wholeness with you, and can be actually quite alive. I didn't think I was going to talk about that. I didn't even remember that happened until this moment. Okay, so the second way that you can get pushed down, or the soul aspect can get pushed away, is it's actually subtle, and it gets worn down over time. Just push down, push down. It is cultural programming. So this could be from your parents, from different teachers. It could be from various different things. But the big one that I don't think has really ever been addressed is this thing that most people in the world do for 13 to like 24 years of the beginning of their life, called school, aka jail or prison. Seriously, think about that. Like, I don't know if you've really thought about that. That like from age 5 or 6 to age 18, or if you went to college, age 22, or if you go to grad school and then law school till age 30, med school, you are in this box that's designed literally like a prison. Okay, over time, your soul is gonna be like sucked out. And the whole reason that I'm doing this video is because 2 nights ago, I had a dream about my inner child finally being free from school. And she was freaking out, so excited. She's like, I'm free! I'm finally done with this! And it was so beautiful, and it was almost like confusing. I was slightly lucid, and I was like, what? I've been out of school for like a really long time. I've been out of school for like 8 years. I'm like, why is my inner child like finally feeling free, which we'll get into in a second. But the interesting thing is I've had quite a few of these dreams where this child part of me is finally free. And I think what happens is most of us go to this jail school, and then right after we go and we have a transfer that goes into a job, which is also like kind of like a jail. And so no one ever like gets themselves out of this like matrix grind to realize what the hell has happened. And it's been so long. I mean, really, seriously, like 15 years that you don't even remember like who you were before that, and you don't even remember that who you truly are is that child, is the freaking child. That's so amazing. It's truly strange, and I'm not sure, I haven't gone like deep enough like psychically into what's going on, but it feels like some kind of like astral prison or something. And I'm like just now finally fully breaking free of it, and so I'm like, whoa. I think that there's something here. I think that there needs to be like a full recognition and healing done, bringing back the soul aspect just from the sentence of you know, the 15 or 20 years, the 20 back on earth that most kids go through. And okay, some people have a really good time in school, so I'm not gonna like just bag on school altogether, but it can be so much better. And you know this, the different Waldorf systems, there's so much education change that can take place to bring the true soul nature of the kid into fruition, and bring back the creativity, bring back the intuition, bringing back the play, bringing back the imagination, bringing back the boldness, the strength. So many of these qualities of our childlike nature are just so special and need to really be brought back. So the solution to this programming, to this jail sentence, and how the antidote is going back and truly diving into what did you love to do as a kid. And it's critical, because there lies the key of the access, the portal, permission back to your childlike nature, back to all of the information, all the codes that your child, your inner child has, is through that portal. So for me, for instance, as an example, I'm living everything that I loved to do as a kid. I am living my childhood dream. Somehow I was able to remember it right after I got out of college. I think that's because I didn't have very much childhood trauma, and my parents were really supportive. So I'm, doing the art. I'm being in nature. I love National Geographic, so I'm like traveling the world. So I'm doing these different things that I loved so much to do as a kid, being a fairy. And so it's allowing this childlike energy to flow. Interestingly enough, one of the things that I loved to do as a kid was to garden. And I didn't get much opportunity. My mom gave me the backyard, like dark hole spot to grow my peas. And I still did it. And I loved those peas so much. And I grew a few pods, even though it was like in the shade. And I was so proud. The point is that there was this part of me that really loves the earth and plants and gardening. And I just, all growing up, I just never had an opportunity to do that until 2 days ago. And I was with my friend Tracy in Hawaii, and I'm doing this gardening thing with her, and we're like planting pecan trees around the island. And in that state, I was so ecstatic, and I was really fulfilling this like childhood need, like it's a need to do this gardening. And that night was when I had this freedom dream from school, this freedom dream from the jail. And so I had somehow broken myself out astrally in some way by, again, going in and doing that thing I loved as a kid. So I've done most of them. I'm actively looking for those things and acting on them, but there were still missing ones. So as you go in and as you identify, so the homework would be, homework, what should it be? The play work. No, the play will be for you to pause this and to go through, so funny, to go through and go, what did I love to do as a kid? And then go do every one of those things. Because if you're missing one of them, you're missing one of the pieces to the pie of your mission. Because you have an interest. You had an interest for a certain reason. That means it's going to open something for you. And so to go down that rabbit hole and look for it is going to be key, literally a key. And so for me, for instance, there's obviously something, there's a part of my soul mission missing, and it has to do with plants and the earth. And I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but it's awakening. And so just go through that and act on those things. Go do those things, whatever they are. Even if it's actually playing the little child games that you liked. Even if it's like playing, one of my favorite games was Stratego. But like playing these different games that you liked as a kid, even that can awaken some of it too. So just go back and do that. And you can do it through an adult way as well. But either way, those are the entry gates to go back into the astral prison, and then you extract your little child self out of it, and then you break them free, and then you guys get to go together and then create like a magical world. And it's gonna be great. Oh gosh, I'm like getting really zany with this one, but I guess it's appropriate, so that's good. Okay, so those are the two main things to look at. Trauma in the childhood, what was it? How can you overcome it? How can you reclaim that part? Cultural conditioning. What did you buy into? What do you want to, because you bought in, what do you want to sell? Sell it. Get rid of that shit. Let go of all that baggage. It's not yours. It was your parents. It could have been your ancestors. It could have been the culture. Whatever. Let go of all the baggage. It's not yours, because you need your true light to shine through. All of that inspiration so that it is fully accessible to create and to bring it to fruition for humanity. That is your duty. That is your responsibility here on Earth right now. And the kid is the key. Your kid, your inner child is the key. So go find out what that is, what that looks like. Go do it. There's a lot here. You got a lot to do, a lot to be, a lot to play. And comment below to tell me what you do. And yeah, it's gonna be great. And it's funny because this is actually like a really serious topic, because it's such a big deal. And like working with clients, it's so tender, and it's so sensitive and so precious, and at the same time it's really playful. And so it's a strange energy to be delivering both of those at the same time. But I've had a lot of experience with this, so take my advice if you want, or throw it around. Play ball with it and see what happens. So if you like videos like this, please like and subscribe and share, and so that other people can reclaim their inner child and return to play. All right? Love you guys. I'll see you next week with another video.